Good morning, Clearview Homeschoolers Academy. This is Miss Nancy from the Clearview Library District, and I'm here to do your program this month. The title of our program this month is Moving, and it's about immigration and migration. And we know that everybody that's in the United States immigrated to the United States at some point in time. It's just a lot of differences in when that happened. So we're going to give you an opportunity to learn about immigration and migration, and then study your family history and figure out when your family came to the United States. Okay? Now remember that with most of our Clearview Homeschool Academy programs, the town of Windsor, the museum, the History Museum and the Art Museum, do collaborative programs with us. So this Thursday, they're going to have a program that you can sign up for as homeschoolers. That's homeschool day at the museum. And you can learn about the Russian Germans who immigrated to the United States a long time ago. And some of your families might have been descendants of some of those people. So it'd be really fun to learn about that. Okay? So let's start by thinking about what the words mean. Immigration means that people come from one country and they move to another country, okay? And they do it permanently. Now, permanently, I mean, it's not just a trip, okay? Eventually, they might decide to move back to that home country. But if they immigrate, that means that they're thinking they're going to stay there for a good long time, okay? Now, if you think about migration, that's a little bit different because migration is usually within the same country, and it might be a move because of a better job or a new house or that kind of thing. So an example is I just moved into a new house in June, and so I haven't been here very long. That is a migration. I moved from one house to another, and I had certain reasons for doing that. And it's really fun to think about the reasons that people make these kind of moves. When we think about immigration, we're thinking about people that might have come to the United States from the old world to the new world, the very first pilgrims. Even the Native Americans came to the United States from somewhere else. We're not absolutely, I think, completely sure where, but many theories are that they came over from Russia and Mongolia across the Bering Strait to Alaska, and then came down into the United States, continental United States. So everybody came from somewhere, and it'll be fun to figure that out. Do ask those questions about why people did it. When you study your family history, you can ask those why questions too, because it's really fun to hear those stories about why people make these moves. Okay? Now, you have a packet, and in your packet is this handout. So I'm going to kind of go through this handout and just go from one step to the next, because there are activities with all of the steps, and some of them are crafts or things you get to do that'll be really fun for you. I think you're going to enjoy all of this one. Okay, so I'm going to go to step one, and step one, now there's a lot of things in your kit, okay, but step one has certain pieces in your kit that you will need to gather. Okay, there's some washi tape in your kit. There should be 2 rolls. There are some stickers. Okay. There is a little label that says My Moving Journal. And then there's a composition notebook. Okay. So my thinking, but I want you to feel free to decorate this however you want to. In my mind, I was going to put, whoops, we should put it right side up. I was going to put the label over the label on the notebook, and I was going to tape washi tape around it to hold it on, and then I was going to make some designs with the washi tape. And then last of all, I was thinking I would put some stickers around in some of my empty spots. So your first step one is to decorate your moving journal. Okay? Okay. So that's step one. Step two is the very best part, and that is interviewing your parents, the adults in your house, aunts and uncles maybe older brothers and sisters know parts of your family history. If you have grandparents that are nearby that you can talk to, sometimes grandparents have the best stories. Even great-grandparents could tell you incredible stories if you have any of those. I remember when I was about your age, I did have great-grandparents that were still living, and they still spoke with a Danish accent, and it was really interesting to hear from them. Most of my family stories came from my father. He was the one that talked about it the most. So you'll see how different people in your family react and how they talk. And you'll have a really good time learning some of those family stories. Okay? So think about it. Now, think about it starting with you. Okay? Have you moved like I did? Maybe you moved from another state or from another city or from another neighborhood, or you might have moved from another country as a child. And so start thinking about those and ask for those stories, and then go back to your parents and find out about them, and then your grandparents, and go from there and see how you do with it, okay? Now, an example is if I start with me, my most recent migration was from another house to this house. But another migration I made was when I lived in Colorado Springs as a high schooler, and I moved to Fort Collins to go to college. And so I've had two major migrations right there. But my parents have more interesting even immigrations. My father's parents, my grandparents on my father's side, came from Denmark, and they came through Ellis Island. And I remember as a child being able to see their immigration papers, and they had them framed on the wall. And it was very important to them. And they came from Denmark and went to Montana, and they farmed, and then they came to Colorado Springs. Now, I found out from my mom that her mom was of German descent, but her mom was born in Colorado Springs. But my mom's father was from Russia, and he came to the United States because he was very afraid of what was happening in Europe at the time. It was between World War I and World War II, and he was Jewish, and he was very concerned about the Nazis. And that's why he came and settled in Colorado Springs. So lots of interesting things I was able to find out as a child about my family. Okay, and so when you're finding out these things, take your journal and start with, you can start with the first page if you want to, or you could make a title page and decorate the first page. But then I would probably start with a page here, and I would write about my history and just little notes. You can do bullet points if you want to, just a note that says born in such and such a place, moved to, and try to put your dates in if you can, if the adults in your house can help you with those things. Okay, and then I would probably move to the next page, and I would talk about my dad, and then my mother, and going on through, and then my grandparents. And I'm just going to devote a page for each of those people because I want to have plenty of room to just jot down all kinds of interesting little stories they might tell me, or those kinds of things, okay? So you're going to do that, and you're just recording in your movement journal for right now, okay? Now, in step 2, that was step 2, sorry, you know that. In step 3, you can get these maps, okay? And you know from looking at them that there's one map that is Colorado, where we live. There's one map here that is the United States of America, with all the states in different colors. And then you'll have one larger map that is a world map, okay? Now, since we're starting everything with us and moving back in time, start with your Colorado map. And you have some pink dots, okay? So I would start with now and put a dot on this map for where you live. Now, here's Greeley, and here's Fort Collins, and Windsor's about there. The adults in your home can help you with that. So you would put a dot there. And then if you have moved anywhere in Colorado, that you moved from somewhere to here where you migrated, like I did, I would put a dot on Fort Collins. And then I would put a dot on Colorado Springs, which is down here. And then I'm going to draw lines because I moved from Colorado Springs to Fort Collins to Timnath, okay? And so I will have some lines drawn on here, and I'll have 3 pink dots. You may have a whole bunch of dots. You may have 1 dot. Maybe you've lived in the same place your whole life. And it's really interesting to see the differences in people that have moved lots of places or not very many places, and both are really wonderful. Okay, so once you get done with your Colorado map, you can look at your United States map, and you might have lived in another state. So you would put 1 dot in Colorado, and then you might have dots in several states that you have moved to and from. And then you'll draw lines between those two. Now, if you get confused about when you did what, have the adults in your house help you and explain how those journeys were made, how those migrations were made. Okay? Now, I've never lived anywhere but Colorado, so I would only have 1 dot in here. I'm a Colorado native, and I've never lived anywhere else. Okay? So do that one next. After that, you have your world map. And it's a little harder to see things on the world map because they're so very tiny. But over here, I'd have one kind of near the, not quite the middle, but the western part of the United States. That's where I am now. But I would have to find Denmark over here, which is a little teeny country right in through here. And then I'd have a dot there. I'd also have a dot for Russia. And I'd also have a dot for Germany, which is in the main part of Europe. Okay? And then I could draw lines from Denmark to Montana and then to Colorado. And I could draw Germany and Russia to Colorado. Okay? Now, I did forget one. See, you're going to do this too. I could also put a dot in Montana for where my father lived. Okay? And then a line from Montana to Colorado for him. Okay? So you may go back and forth. If you're like me and you go, oh my gosh, I forgot about this person, then go back. It's okay. You might use all of your dots. You might only use a couple. Either one's okay. Okay? So that's step 3. Okay? Now remember as you're doing this that all of our families are very different, and they come from a lot of different places, and that's part of what makes the United States so great. So you could have a lot of dots. You could have just a few. You could have a lot of notes in your notebook, maybe just a few. But think about the stories that go along with those movements, those migrations and immigrations, and try to record some of those because those are super special. Okay? Now, families are formed in different ways too. Some of my children are adopted. So if I wanted to include that, which I definitely would on my maps, I would also include Vietnam and India and Haiti in my maps, showing that those are places that my children came from. And so families formed by adoption can include all those adoption journeys too, because those are immigrations also. Or they might be migrations. You may have come from a different state or a different city and joined your family by adoption, and you can record that also. So remember that all the differences in our families can be reflected, but we're all families, and that's our common part. Okay? Okay, for step 4, you're going to start thinking about what people might have brought with them. Okay? Now, in today's history and a long time ago, people came to the United States for different reasons. An example might be the Irish potato famine. People were starving. There was not enough food because the potatoes weren't growing. And a lot of people came to the United States because of that. Now, if they were starving where they were, they probably weren't able to bring very much of their stuff to the United States with them. Some people only came with a small box or a small suitcase or maybe a small trunk. Other people were able to move their entire home and bring those special things with them. So there's a lot of differences there. But you will have in your kit, now I've already cut mine out because I didn't want you to have to mess with watching me cut the whole thing out. You will have a little suitcase pattern. And when it's all done, see, I'm sorry, I keep doing things upside down because I can see them. It'll look like this when you put it together. And you're going to think about what you would bring in that suitcase. And you're going to think about a journey that you might make. It can be a real journey or a make-believe one. Or you can pick somebody in your family and think about what they would have brought with them to the United States. So once you have this cut out, you're cutting on all the dark lines, okay? You will also notice on here that there are some zigzag lines, dashes. Okay, those are your fold lines. And when you fold, everything is going to go inside. So I'm just going to go through here and take all those lines and fold them in. Okay? Now there's a lot of them. You see how many? I'll turn this around so you can see all the little fold lines. See, they're all going the same direction. Okay? Now, if you fold those with the dots inside, as long as you do them all the same direction, you're totally okay. So I'm still folding along those fold lines, folding my flaps. Remember that you can ask that adult in your house, or the adults if there's lots of them, to help you with this. Try to get them on the line as best as you can, because your suitcase might be stronger. Whoops, look, I didn't cut one of them. So make sure you cut all the solid lines. There we go. See that one? And fold it in. I think I have one more. This one. I'm going to fold it in too. Okay? Oh, I see one more. There's one across here. It's really faint. Okay? Okay. So all of my pieces are folded in. Okay? Now I can just put them in. Make sure the little flaps, these guys, whoops, right here, make sure they're on the inside of the part that they fold over. Okay? And then you're just going to go inside and glue, put a touch of glue on each of these flaps so that it makes a box that's going to stay together like that. Okay? Now, this is the kind of cool part, because this is what makes your box. Did you see that? I have another fold in there. This is what makes your box into a suitcase, and it's pretty cool. So let me get that last fold, get all my little flaps inside, pretend that I glued them. I want it to stay together like a suitcase would stay together. Okay? So on this flap, which you will see in your pattern, I am going to take an ink pen and I'm going to punch holes. I'll punch them and then I'll show them to you, because that will be the suitcase handles. Okay? So do you see my holes right there? Okay. And then I'm going to take my little piece of chenille stem or pipe cleaner and I'm going to put them through so that I have a handle on my suitcase. Let me see if I can get that through. Okay, there we go. I have a handle. Inside, I'm just going to fold those back so that they stay inside my suitcase. If you want to put a teeny bit of tape on them or a little bit of glue, you can, but it probably isn't necessary. Okay, so now you have a handle. Now, the other thing you probably want to do is make a little slit. Whoops, right there, so that you can thread that handle through and it'll keep your suitcase closed. So to make that slit, I'm going to sort of kind of fold this a little bit in the middle. I'm sorry, I keep going too low and you can't see it. There. And I'm just going to cut a little snip right there. Okay? Just stick my scissors through and just go snip, snip, snip. Okay? Okay? So now I have a little snip in there. Now yours is going to be glued together, so yours is going to stay together better. I'm going to put the little handle through that. Hopefully it'll go, and grab it. And there is my suitcase. Okay? And I am ready to go on my immigration or migration journey. Okay? I'm going to open it back up. And in your kit, you have a little teeny stack of sticky notes. And you can use those sticky notes to think about and then write 8 things that you're allowed to take on your journey. Only 8. So what are the most important things that you would take on your journey? Now, my daughter said she would take her cat. And I'm thinking, well, that would be hard to put in a suitcase. But it might have been possible that people migrating or immigrating would have brought a pet with them, because our pets are really special to us. Might take family photographs or family papers, probably some clothes, maybe food. There's lots of different things that are important. And when you think about what you would put in your suitcase, think about what are the things that you need to get by and what are the things that you want to get by, because there's a big difference between needs and wants. Okay, so think about those and really brainstorm, spend some time jotting down some ideas. Now again, you can use your moving journal and start a page and just start jotting down what you would take. Okay, now when you go back into your journal, you might want to go back and ask whoever has immigrated or migrated in your family what they took. Now, they may have taken their whole household. Lots of people do. I know that when I moved this last time, I got rid of a lot of stuff because I was moving to a smaller house. So I didn't bring as much as I had. I sold stuff and gave stuff away and went to Goodwill and everything so that I had less stuff. So you'll find all kinds of interesting things. Some of your ancestors that came to the United States might not have been able to bring very much with them when they came. Okay? So you're going to write them on those little sticky notes and then very carefully fold those sticky notes up and pack them in your suitcase so that you are ready for your immigration or migration journey. Okay? Now, step 5 is like the biggest part of this moving program. And you will go to the next page, wherever you're at in your journal, and I want you to write a little bit of a story. Now, your story could be the story of one of your parents. It could be your own story. It could be a made-up story. It could be your aunt and uncle's story. You can decide whoever you want that story to be about. And I want you to write a little bit of a story about them coming to the United States. Or you could write a story about an ancestor that went from one country to another that was not the United States. Okay? So think about who you want to write about. Now, I want you to remember that when you're writing, you can think of the 5 W's. Do you know what the 5 W's are? Okay. Who? Who went on the journey? Why did they go on the journey? What? The journey. Okay, immigration or migration. Who, why, what, when? When in time in history did it happen? Is it present day or was it in the 1800s? Okay, and then where? Where did they go? So we have who, why, what, when, and where. And you want to try to make sure that you get all of the 5 W's into your story so that your story is complete. Okay? And remember that you can go back in your journal and read about different people in there to get ideas. Remember that it can be a make-believe story, that would be fiction, or it can be non-fiction, which means that it's real and it really happened. Okay? So that's the last part. That's step 5 in our moving program. Okay? Now, since you are doing this program, I wanted you to think about a couple things that you could do at the library that would help you in your work on thinking about this journey. So first of all, if you go to the Clearview Library District's website, which is clearviewlibrary.org, you will get to our online catalog. And because we're only doing takeout right now, you would have to call and get books checked out to you, and then you can pick them up outside. So go to the Clearview Library District's website, and in the search blank, type in immigration. And then you can look at all kinds of books that might be available and a lot of resources that aren't books. You might find online resources, you might find movies, all kinds of good things that you might want to check out. Now, you also can go to our website, that clearviewlibrary.org, and look under Explore, which is one of the buttons at the top of the page, and then go down to Downloads and Streaming, and then scroll down to Hoopla, okay? And there's a little tutorial on how to use Hoopla. But Hoopla is a great source for ebooks and e-audio books, also movies. And when I was doing my immigration and migration searches, I found that there were a lot of like short films on Hoopla that are geared for kids you guys' age. Some of them were like 13 minutes, 20 minutes long. Lots of really good resources about immigration and migration. So you might want to look under Hoopla or look in our catalog and find those things and then check them out through Hoopla. So if you have any trouble with trying to navigate the website, you can always email me, Nancy, at clearviewlibrary.org, or you can call our help desk and they'll walk you through how to do a more advanced search so that you can narrow it down for juvenile materials and that kind of thing. So do ask us for help if you have any trouble, but there's a lot of really good resources, both in the catalog and in Hoopla. Okay, now finally, before we finish today, I wanted to show you a couple things that you can check out. And I have these checked out right now to me, but I'll turn them in today, so if you want any of them, you'll be able to check them out, okay? So one of them is a video called Her Right Foot, and this is about the Statue of Liberty. And we know that the Statue of Liberty was what many immigrants to the United States saw when they first got here. And she is a sign of welcome to all people coming to the United States. It's a wonderful, sometimes even a little bit funny take on the Statue of Liberty. So you might really enjoy that one. I think it's also available on Hoopla. Okay. This is a new book, and it's called Boundless Sky, and it's beautiful. And it's interesting because it tells immigration and migration stories through the point of the bird, but if you're watching the illustrations, you will realize that there is immigration and migration going on with the people too. And it's beautiful. It's a wonderful story. That's Boundless Sky. Okay. This one's probably one of my favorite books in the whole world. This is called Dreamers, and it's by Yuyi Morales. And this book won tons of awards. It's just gorgeous. And it is about a Latina woman and her baby who came to the United States. And I don't want to give any spoilers. I just want you to see how beautiful the book is. And it's kind of funny and cute. Things that the mom did not know about the United States and had to learn. I'm not going to give you a spoiler. It's got a really cool ending. So that's Dreamers, and that's a fabulous one. Okay? Now, when we think about immigration, especially about the time of my grandparents or maybe your great-grandparents, there were two places that people entered the United States. Now, there were more than two, but there were two main places. One of them was Angel Island, which was off the coast of California. And a lot of the immigrants that came to Angel Island were from Asia. A lot of Chinese and Japanese people entered the United States to help build the railroads. There was lots of work for them. So Angel Island is really an interesting book to learn about that immigration. And there's lots of books too. This is Island of Hope, and this is about Ellis Island, where my grandparents came into the United States through, and what happens at Ellis Island. And people actually had to take tests, and they had to have physicals, and they had to prove that they had people that they could go to in the United States. There were all kinds of requirements for immigration at that time, and most of it was done through Ellis Island. So you might want to learn more about that. Okay, now remember we're talking about migration too, and there's been a lot of really cool migration within the United States. The Oregon Trail would be a migration, people coming from the east to the west in the United States during the 1800s. So you might be more interested in some of the migrations that happened within our country. Okay, there's Oregon Trail. And another one that you might enjoy is The Quest for California's Gold. And this was about the California Gold Rush, where lots of people moved to the western part of the United States in search of gold. Okay, so I do hope you'll extend the program a little bit by finding out about some of the resources that we have at the library, and call and get them on takeout, and you can enjoy those as part of this program. Okay, so thank you for joining me. I enjoy being with you. I wish I could really be with you. I can't wait to meet some of you. So thank you for coming, and join us next month Remember to sign up. Remember to sign up each of your children as their own entry so that they each get a kit. And like this month, we usually take just 22 people into Clearview Homeschoolers Academy, but the kits were such that I was able to make more. So some of you may have been on a waiting list and were able to get into the program. Sometimes that's not possible. If I have to order materials, I can't get more quick enough to make more kits, but I will always try my hardest to get you in if you're on the waiting list. Okay? Okay. You guys have a really good time on your journey with this program, and I will see you next month. Stay safe, stay healthy, have fun. Thank you. Bye-bye.